There's an environmental disaster unfolding in the town of East Palestine, Ohio. No one's talking about it, which is really weird. A 50-car train derailed, managed by Norfolk Southern, just flew off the tracks. Now, 10 of those cars were carrying hazardous chemicals, and there was a massive evacuation order. People were told to leave their homes because the air and water were unsafe. And last Monday, officials released toxic chemicals from the tankers, and it caused a massive explosion. They just decided to light all the chemicals on fire. That's how they decided to handle it. These are hazardous chemicals that can give you cancer. Now, there's more to this story because this involves vinyl chloride.
Then it caught on fire. I think this is where the reporting is really bad because no one is mentioning what the byproduct of vinyl chloride burning is. Of the many byproducts of burning vinyl chloride, one of them is hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride is really unstable and latches onto water, like just water vapor in the atmosphere, and that turns into hydrochloric acid. So right now, government officials from the railroad, both the governor of Pennsylvania and Ohio are calling burning off the 1 million pounds of this stuff a success, but not mentioning that it means that we have hundreds of thousands of pounds of acid in the air, potentially.
And so we didn't hear any of that from Ohio officials. They just told everybody on Wednesday that everything was fine. The governor and other officials said the air and water are safe. But then how come they're arresting journalists?
You want to stand outside. We're going to jail. Let's go. Let's go. You're under arrest. Under arrest.
That was a News Nation reporter. He was arrested for criminal trespassing at an event he was allowed to be at and was charged with resisting arrest and released later. Ohio officials told residents the same day that they were safe to start returning home after they'd been forced out for days. But these residents were seeing dead fish, dead frogs, dead chickens, all kinds of dead animals all over the place. Now, how could the water and air be so safe after all of these animals have just been led dying for days? Now, the worst part is we've already been lied to by the government officials. Just the other day, the EPA released a letter saying that there were more hazardous chemicals released than they originally told us. There were more polluted water systems than they originally told us. And while East Palestine's ground zero for it, the effects of it could be felt all the way down to West Virginia, where toxic chemicals from the explosion have been reportedly found in the Ohio River. The Ohio River is long. Now, our next guest lives on one side of the tracks where the train crashed and works on the other side. He owns a small engine repair shop and raising money to help his family. Nathan Velez is here with us now. So you're not really buying what the public officials are telling you about this. Why are you so suspicious?
Well, it's not that I'm suspicious, it's just they haven't really told me anything useful. And when they did tell us, we were already given the okay to go home. So there was people already home, and then they released all of the chemicals that were also within that wreck.
Oh, so they told you to return home and then did that controlled explosion?
No. We were evacuated for that. They released the manifest of what else was burned after we were already home.
Now, have you noticed anything crazy? People are seeing all kinds of wild stuff. Does it smell funky? Is the water all murky? What are you seeing?
Well, the water, it's hard to see because there's a lot of hazmat employees and people still cleaning it up. But as far as the smell, that's definitely present. I came today where we are right now at my shop. This is the first time I've been here in a week. And I was here 5 minutes and I have a headache right now. And you can smell it. Anyone who comes here who hasn't been here can smell it. Your cameraman smelled it.
Oh my God.
And it gives you a headache. He'll probably have one. Yeah, it's not. And then my house is just across the track. The tracks are right behind me on the other side of that wall. There's a creek, then the train. And my house is on the other side of that, and it smells too. And you can't spend a lot of time here without feeling like crap. And my question is why, if it's okay, if it's safe, and all these people say it's safe, if it's so safe and okay, then why does it hurt?
And you have children?
I do, yeah. I have a son and a daughter, a 9-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
And they're back in school, or what's the plan here?
Well, she don't go to school yet, but my son does, and they opened today. But we didn't take him because we are not staying here. We haven't been here. We've been staying at an Airbnb in Canfield. And we couldn't figure out if we could take him back. We contacted the school. We don't have a straight answer because they want us to still be residents, but technically we still are. Everything's confusing. Everything is pure chaos right now.
Oh my God. All right, listen, I hope, Nathan, you get better, and I hope it's not as dangerous as some of these reports are. We hope your family's okay, and this thing gets straightened out, because I don't trust what they're telling us. I know you don't either. Thanks so much for joining us. And
Not at all.
we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we're going to stay on
Absolutely.
the story, Nathan.
Come on down.
Don't worry about it. Now, absent from all of this is Pete, Mayor Pete, Secretary of Transportation. I mean, he's the guy that does trains, planes, and automobiles. And we checked, we invited him on. He won't come on. He hasn't said anything about this. But he was talking today about something much more important.
We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
Oh, so he's mad that there's white construction workers. Okay. Anything about the environment, Pete? Anything about the catastrophe with this train derailment? You're the transportation secretary. No, he's got nothing. I don't know what he's doing. So there's actually action the Biden administration could have taken to help prevent this. In 2012, a train that was also carrying vinyl chloride derailed in Paulsboro, New Jersey. And since that, 3 different administrations had the opportunity to mandate trains carrying these hazardous materials have these special brakes. But it never got passed. It never went through because the lobbyists said it would cost too much. So the politicians said fine. And so did the administration officials. Now, Pete has the opportunity to change something for the better. I mean, how many racist bridges can you rename? But we'll see what he does. Dana Lash is a nationally syndicated radio host. Really makes you sad. I mean, he says guys having headaches. He doesn't want to send his kids to school. This thing looks really dangerous. What happened here, Dana?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. And Jesse, I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because I think that this is one of the most underreported stories. This story is huge. I mean, some are calling this an ecological disaster. And you mentioned the story back in 2012 in New Jersey involving that vinyl hydrochloride. Apparently, not since 2012 has there been such an accident involving that particular chemical until now. I mean, it's been several days. A straight week. This guy that you interviewed was talking about. People want answers. I mean, to not even to just like delay the release of all the chemicals that are involved in this. And you bring up the transportation secretary, who seems to be MIA, not just on this, but I mean, let's go back and look at all of the latest transportation, either disasters or hassles, whether it has to do with supply chain crisis. Didn't he have a supply chain task force that was supposed to be answering questions for people? And it wasn't until a FOIA request that people discovered while he was on his quote unquote parental leave for 2 months, 9 months into his job, his brand new job as transportation secretary, that he was refusing to even meet with anyone to answer any questions related to his job. Seems pretty important in the middle of a supply chain crisis. And then don't forget what happened over Christmas with Southwest. And then don't forget what happened just more recently with all of these flights shut down because of this old system. And then what does Pete Buttigieg do? He decides, instead of actually raising awareness to do anything about the old systems, outdated systems, he renames the notice to airmen, notice to air missions, so that it's more gender inclusive, Jesse. That's what he ends up doing. That's his big contribution to all of these problems that the Department of Transportation is supposed to be overseeing. Let's be clear, Pete Buttigieg only got his job because Joe Biden owed him a favor. You don't go from South Bend, Indiana, being known as Pothole Pete, and potholes are one of the basic 101 of solving transportation crises for leaders. You don't go from that to being the secretary of a department that you have less experience in than Hunter Biden with Burisma unless someone owes you a favor. So he cashed in, and he's just going to bide his time until he can run again.
Yeah, well, Pothole Pete better fly to Ohio and hold a press conference and try not to arrest a reporter this time, because we need some answers. Thank you so much, Dana.
Thanks, Jesse.